Okay, so as a result, the cops, while I was in jail, they busted down the front door of my house, and for some reason they confiscated all of my computer equipment, everything that has anything to do with Pyrebang, and the web server, Liquid Web, has hence deleted everything from their servers because of non-payment. I basically took off the payments. I called my banker and I said, you know, no more payments out of that account because I needed it to get out of jail. And the cops also took $17,000 worth of silver from my home for some reason. I had 3 pot plants in the house, and I guess they want to say that maybe I made $17,000 with 3 pot plants. And as you know, I smoke marijuana lawfully, and I didn't have enough for myself. I was still buying it from other people. So, and that's not something that anyone would ever get out of me anyway. So, the fact is, we have a right to do these sort of things, and government does not have a right to make these statutes that tell you that you can't do it. And what they need in order to use these statutes on you is your consent, and you give that consent by begging the court to judge you. When you enter a plea, you're begging the court to judge you, whether it's not guilty, guilty, or no contest. The statute, the definition of a word statute is a legislative rule of a society given the force of law. It's not a law. It's given the force of law by the consent of the governed. If you're the governed and you don't consent, they cannot use that rule on you. Rules were made to be broken. We've all heard that kind of saying, and I believe that was put together because some rules are not very good ones. We've got the jails are filling up with people from this war on drugs, and what it really literally is a war on the people. And it's also a stark form of socialism. And the entire war on drugs is a war on socialism, is a war for socialism, and it's about the democratic majority imposing their will on the minority. So if you've got 49% that want this and you got 51% that want this, you have a 51% dictatorship over the 49%, and there we don't have any individual rights. Now you see on the media all the time, even Obama's sitting there saying we have a democracy. We don't have a democracy. We have a republic. Okay, you have to consent to the democracy, and that's all done by basic law contracts. You know, you're contracting in by your driver license. You're an employee of the federal government, and only employees, agents, and representatives of the government are basically susceptible to these statutory rules, and that's how they trick you into obeying all of these statutes that nobody can understand, and you're not supposed to understand them because they're written by lawyers for lawyers to make money. Now we need to step outside the big picture and take a look at what's happening here. Okay, you've got judges and lawyers and prosecutors that are literally they have mansions, they have butlers, they have maids, and they have gardeners, and these people vacation at places, a couple times a year that you or I could maybe dream about going to once or twice in a lifetime. We are literally serfs on the land that our forefathers have conquered, and these people are literally kings and queens. Now, what we have in this country literally is a dictatorship. Okay, when one cop can take you and throw you in jail, and another judge can then scare you out of your right to a jury by giving you 1 year and threatening 10 if you assert your right to a jury, that's a dictatorship. So then we have all of these people that are, a lot of them are innocent, but they take the plea because they're afraid of going for the jury and getting years and years and years in jail. Now, the top pay rate at Dodge Prison up in Wisconsin here is 41 cents an hour. These people pay. These people make tables and chairs and road signs and all kinds of other stuff, and then they're competing with the private sector, these independent business people who are employing others in the private sector, but they have to pay these people a living wage. So who do you think is gonna win in that kind of a competitive arrangement. Obviously, the people that are paying their labor a whole lot less. And then it's a vicious circle. It's a vicious circle where sooner or later everybody's going to be working for the state. And at that point, what do we have? We have literally communism at that point. So if you don't want communism, you need to be you need to get up to date on what's going on with this sovereign movement and why folks are so upset over what has happened to our country. It's happened by deception. It's happened because all these foreign countries, the British Crown in general, knew that they could not come in and militarily take this country. They had to do it subversively. They had to do it through our economic system. They had to do it through the Federal Reserve, where they're charging interest that they don't create, and then nobody can pay their bills. The mortgage is a complete fraud. You can look up Township of Credit River decision. That's something everybody should check out. If anybody has any kind of a foreclosure problem, you Google that and you're going to find, actually go to Start Page, because that's a lot more private than Google, startpage.com, and you can look up the Township of Credit River decision, and in it, Judge Mahoney, who was murdered 6 months later, poisoned. He was drowned, but they found poison in his system. But anyway, in that court date, he says only God can create something from nothing, when the banker stated that they created the money by bookkeeping entry, and there's no law that gave them the right to be able to do that. So what the banks are doing is they're inflating the money supply in order to get an interest in your house, and then they take the house through foreclosure. So now, I could get more into that. You have a down payment, somebody pays a down payment, then they make payments for a few years, and with these prime mortgages, they went from 4% up to like 9%, and people's payments go from like $600 or $800 a month up to like $1,600 a month, and then bam, they can't pay. Bam, they get kicked out of their house. The bank gets the mortgage. The bank gets the bank gets the house, and then bam, they can do it all over again. And it's just this vicious circle where the banks are literally stealing from the people on a regular basis. And it's a financial musical chair system. And every time the music stops, somebody goes bankrupt. The cops left my door wide open for 3 months. And I was powerless to stop anybody from stealing, from my home. And it was robbed multiple times. And the cops are calling me, telling me, well, we wanted to let you know your house was robbed again. And there's nothing I can do about it. And I'm like, well, can you secure the door while you're there? And they didn't want to do that either. Another thing, when I was arrested when I was taken into custody in Randolph County, Illinois, I immediately told the sheriff who was on location, I said, I have evidence against Swansea Police Department. I have video on my video camera which will explain everything, the reason why I fled, that there's over an hour of evidence where they harassed me and then they smashed out my window and caused a fight or flight response out of me. Okay? When they smashed my window out, I did not have the time to be able to make a rational decision on what I should do. Now, everybody that I've spoken with have told me that the next action, had I not hit the gas, would have been to drag me out of that window through the broken glass and then slam me on the pavement. Now, as far as I know, the cops do not have a right to harm you either, especially when all I'm doing is I've got my hands up and I'm asserting my right to remain silent, which is basically what I've done, other than the fact of saying that that's not me. If they wanted to produce a warrant, we could talk about that, and even if the fiction is on the warrant, then I'm sure they could have talked me into reasonably going down to jail and posting a bond and handling and taking my recourse in court. I have my book that it's going to be over 250 pages or roughly when it's done. It's about a third entered into the computer. I got this cheap laptop, and I'm gonna be selling it in order to raise money for what I need. I mean, I'm literally camped out in the back of my yard right now because they've slapped a notice on my house that it's unfit for human habitation. That's the latest thing that they've done to me. These guys are just harassing me from every angle, and it seems like I have nobody to turn to. What it seems like we have here is that we have the mob, and there's no cops to call. I've gone all the way up the line, and everybody has been absolutely deaf-mute when it comes to talking to me about any of this stuff. So that's it for Volume 2 of the update.